Good day all, this is South African Prepper and welcome back to South Africa. So the world is spiraling out of control. As you all should know, we've got the bank collapse in America. We've got the bank collapse happening slowly but surely in Europe. We've got inflation in Europe on food, roughly about 50%, the gas and electricity at 300%. And the war in Ukraine is just not ending. And it seems like the Americans are poking at China. And as you all should know, Europe has never ever seen so many riots. Riots in France, people burning and looting. An amount of about 3 million people that protested in France. And we've got similar protests around the world in Israel. Israel is extremely close to a civil war. And then if you pop over to Germany, the Germans are protesting, the Italians are protesting, and everybody are protesting against this whole climate scam. They are protesting against NATO, supporting a war against Russia. And on the back of that, it seems like the Americans really desperately want to go into war with China as well. And the irony of all of this is that they can not even sustain a war against Russia. And I mean, if you look at China, 1 billion people versus America, 350 million people. Guys, if you want to make war, the first thing to do is to make the sum. If the sum doesn't make sense, why the hell do you want to go to war? So the world is absolutely crazy. And here in South Africa, the last week for us as a family has been rough because we've experienced a shutdown in South Africa, which wasn't really anything significant. But it is showing us what will happen in the near future. And you can definitely see the writing is on the wall if it comes to a collapse. Now, the banking crisis in North America and Europe will have a profound impact on South Africa. You must remember that South Africa is so bankrupt that we need to borrow money from abroad to keep this country running, okay, to an extent. And once Europe and once North America falls, once the dollar is not seen as the main trading currency in the world, okay, South Africa will no longer get that extra money to keep the country going. What we've noticed in South Africa specifically is the food pricing. The food pricing since 2020 lockdown, it has been something of the percentages are crazy. And I mean, we're talking about basic foodstuffs, cooking oils, milk on the shelves, eggs, flours, maize meal. These things have shot up the last 2 to 3 years, something ridiculous. And this morning we drove and I said to my wife, I feel for the person working at the cashier or the petrol attendant putting in the fuel or the domestic worker or the guy that does the cleaning in the office buildings, for an example. Their salaries are not going as far as they used to. And if you understand South Africa, one person in South Africa normally supports anything between 4 and 10 people. So that one person working is looking after the bigger family. And at some point in time, it is all gonna just collapse down. It's all gonna fall and break and burn because people can only survive on their salaries. And I mean, some of these people earn 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 rand a month, which is not much. We've seen the increase since 2020, diesel and petrol. We use a lot of diesel. I can tell you guys, the sums at some point is not going to make sense to put seed in the ground for a profit anymore, because the diesel pricing just does not want to come down. And on the back of that, we've got the electricity crisis. Now, we personally are not affected that badly, but the bigger other farmers are affected immensely. And some advice to South Africans today. South Africa has got a deficit when it comes to producing food. We are importing maize, wheat, sunflowers. Okay, we are importing the deficits from Western countries. Countries like Argentina. Now, Argentina is in a major big financial crisis. The world at large is in a big financial crisis. So what's happened the last 20, 30 years is people have been relying on the supply chain. We saw 2020, the supply chain was interrupted for a while, okay? It's never recovered. Farmers in the world are not keeping up with production because of bad weather, because of the governments not wanting them to farm, okay? Fuel pricing in the world is crazy, absolutely madness. So we're sitting in a state of a world economic collapse where we can name them. Recently, Haiti, they fell. Argentina is in major big trouble. France is in major big trouble. Italy, Greece, Germany, the English, the UK are in big financial trouble. America themselves, the richest nation in the world, are in massive financial trouble. And the only way for you, okay, to protect yourself, protect your family, is one, you need to prepare, and two, you need to be producing your own food. So some advice to my fellow farmers in South Africa. Yes, try and do the mass production that you normally do, but you need to, at some point, you need to be able to feed your own family as well. We've got too many commercial farmers, fantastic people, fantastic business people. They know how to plant, they know how to sow, they know how to harvest, they know the land, but they cannot produce enough food for their own families. And once you get to that point, you actually shield yourself from this economic collapse that is coming to the world. Now, next year, 2024, we will be having elections in South Africa, and we can already see that the coalitions are not working. They're not gelling nicely. We've seen mayors in cities being elected and then thrown out, and people fighting in municipalities. The coalitions are not working, okay? Our unemployment rate is through the roof. Our food pricing, we've been lucky so far, it's been gradually going up. But at some point, the masses are not going to tolerate the high prices. They're not going to be able to afford food. We're getting very close to that point. And once we struck that point, we're going to be in very big trouble in South Africa. When people get hungry, and it's the same in Europe, when people get hungry, the same in North America, when people get hungry, they become animals. They become animals. And the only way for you to survive is to prep, is to be producing yourself, and is to take yourself away from the masses. Take yourself away from the cities. Get your family to a place where you can actually defend yourself in order for you to survive. The days where we rely on governments are long gone. The days where we rely on government and banks to safeguard our money is long gone. The days of stable economies is long gone. We're going into a different period in the world now. The Great Reset has actually physically started. We're in World War III. They just haven't declared it. So be awake. You have to work. You have to get working for your family. and on your knees and ask God that He will actually give us the wisdom and open our eyes so that we can make the right decisions for our families and for our communities. This is South African Prepper. Guys, please like, share and subscribe.